Howdy, folks. How are we all doing today? As part of this video, I actually wanted to sort of reintroduce myself as to why I run my page in the first place and why I provide my videos, photos, and articles. So I just want to brush up, if you know what I mean. So, for those of you who have followed my content for quite some time, I want to say thank you for all of your support, of course. And for those of you who are new to my page, this is sort of my opportunity to really explain what it is that I provide. So, of course, to start off, for those of you who don't know me, the name is Durnye. And I run a Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube, and every now and then I'll use TikTok too, called Durnye on a Journey. You know, when I thought of that name, I thought, it really emphasized that part of my mission, which I'll explain in a second. Now, in terms of what I do, it's sort of like a blog, or it essentially is a blog, but at the same time, I'm using that blog to provide a piece of education. And usually most of that education focuses on both the natural world and cultural history. So I try to cover both aspects as much as I can. And then every now and then I'll also cover conservation as well. Or even sort of like these table talks that I do every once in a while that pertain to a particular topic. So I try to mix it up as much as I can. I try to do that so I can attract a variety of people. Now, with that being said, you may be wondering, how did this really start? What really gave me the motive to start doing this? Well, I'll have to be honest with you, it's difficult, it's complicated, because there are many reasons as to why I started doing it. But I think for one thing as to why I really started was given the fact that there was a time in my younger life where I felt that I was a bit misunderstood. And I think my sense of identity felt kind of lost. I just didn't really know what my passion was in. And during this time of, finding self-discovery, it was during that time that I would just go out for a walk, even if it was only 10, 20 minutes. Simple. Just a little stroll, right? But then I started to realize that, based on who I was, I was someone who grew up with something called ASD, which actually stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. It was very difficult for me to interact with fellow peers and among others. I had a very small circle of people who I actually talked to. And for several years, I actually had to do some speech therapy because some of my social development was a bit behind, from what was expected. point in fact, I actually had to do an extra year of preschool. So, I mean, we all have our humble beginnings that we need to remember, of course. But back what I was pointing out was, since I felt nature never judged me for who I really was, that's when I decided to spend more time out in it. And not only that, but for those of you who've known me for quite some time, I actually used to do a lot of distance running. You know, I was in cross country, track, and I even did a bit of swimming too. And even biking was like my common form of transport for the longest time. But I think, you know, since I was participating in those types of activities, it really gave me that sense of discipline and what it meant to really be committed to something. And, you know, all those sports were outdoors. We hardly ever did any of those activities indoors, except maybe when swimming was during the winter, of course. And that's what really got me into that natural world aspect of it, you know, understanding more of the wildlife, or as I like to call it, the homies, or also the flora, just anything that really has to do with ecology, especially. And so that really gave me that motive to start studying environmental science with some marine science at Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. So, Ohio is where I originally come from, as a matter of fact. I actually come from a small town called Greenville, Ohio, which is also known as the Treaty City of 1795. But I'm not going to explain that in detail because that would be for a whole separate video. But Greenville was well known for allowing the settlers to have peace with 13 separate Indian tribes. One of them were the Shawnee, for example. And with that being said, a lot of prominent figures were at the Treaty of Greenville. Some of them included, you know, the famous explorers Lewis and Clark, General Mad Anthony Wayne, I believe even, like Blue Jacket. He was one of the tribal leaders during this time. Those are just to name a couple of separate figures. But then a well-known other figure from my area of Ohio is Tecumseh. But he was not at the treaty because he had a totally separate belief that settlement should not have happened. So it was really also where I grew up. You know, given the rich history that is in my hometown, it really gave me that sense of also talking about cultural history wherever it is I visit, and why we should never forget it so that it's never repeated. So really, it's like all those things that added together, it just basically took off after that. You know, it was while I was studying at Wittenberg University that really I wanted to do something with my education as opposed to just learning in a classroom, because for me, just simple classroom instruction is it's a bit boring. I mean, I hate to be so blunt, but it is a little boring. That's just my opinion, because I think to me it's so much more memorable and meaningful when you're actually out in it. That's just me. So really, it's like the main some of the main reasons why I really run my page is to really promote environmental and cultural history education. And also, as part of my mission, I want kids and adults alike to really have their feel for, having a sense of belonging in the world. Not just with nature, but just life in general. For me, what I do, whether it be conservation or even just interpreting, it really gave me, I feel, a purpose. And it gave me that sense of meaning as to what my goals should be. And that's why, at the moment, I'm sort of like a prospective naturalist. Basically looking for work at the moment. The ideal goal is to really become that interpretive guide. Basically translating what was written or understood in Mother Earth and even history as well. So when you think of interpreting, it's not interpreting a different language. Interpreting is really expanding why we should care about the information we're given. That's the biggest part of it. It's connecting those tangible and intangible ideas. And for example, I was talking about the mangroves just in my last video, which you'll see today, by the way. I talked a bit briefly about it, but it's okay, we got mangroves, but why does it matter? Well, it matters so much because mangroves are one of the most productive ecosystems in the world. And they sequester up to, I think it was 80 some metric tons of carbon each year. So, since they're taking in a lot of carbon, they're producing a lot of oxygen for us to breathe. But that's the thing, I want people to really gain that sense of appreciation for what is in our planet. So that's the thing. I want to start actually providing tours really soon. With families or even a couple of people. It doesn't matter to me. But I just want my visitors to feel like they belong. Forgive me for the length, you guys, but I just wanted to talk a bit more about myself and really clarify as to why I do what I do. Not only that, I have mentioned before that I'm also a certified interpretive guide through the National Association of Interpretation. So if you ever want to hit me up, whether it be a message, or you can even comment on any of my postings. If you want to arrange something, we can make it work. Just have to know in advance. So, I appreciate all the support that you're all giving me. It is truly awesome, by the way. Didn't think I would come this far. So I'm very grateful. So I hope that you guys now have a better understanding of really what my page is about and my mission. So, alright, you guys, thanks for watching. And once again, Durnye on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.